Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Another Rust lawsuit. The new lawsuit from Sherilyn Schaefer, the on-set medic, means there are now 4 lawsuits in the offing from Serge Fetnoy, Mamie Mitchell, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, and now Schaefer. Prior to Rust, Schaefer worked as a set medic on Stranger Things, Briarpatch, Midnight, Texas, Logan, etc. Her suit targets Hannah and Assistant Director Dave Halls, but not Alec Baldwin. According to the Daily Mail, quote, Schaefer claims it was Gutierrez-Reed and Halls' negligence that led to actor Alec Baldwin being handed a gun with a live round that killed Hutchins and injured director Joel Souza. According to Fox News, quote, the suit formally alleged misrepresentation, prima facie tort, and intentional infliction of emotional distress against Rust Movie Productions, Halls, Zachary, that's Sarah Zachary, Gutierrez-Reed, and Seth Kenny, while Hughes and Bonanza Creek Ranch were hit with accusations of premises liability, end quote. I'm a little gobsmacked that it's taken Sherilyn Schaefer 4 months to realize she's traumatized. Remember, this took place in October. We're now in February. I mean, we've heard virtually nothing from her. It's the first time we're really even seeing her face. And let's face it, as a medic, her job is, well, not to be traumatized, but certainly to deal with trauma. Trauma shouldn't be something that is totally new to her and so traumatizing to her. There's a weird sense, I feel, that someone else might be behind Schaefer's lawsuit. I mean, isn't the best defense an attack? In any event, according to Schaefer, and I think this is also from Fox News, quote, she was the first person to offer medical assistance to Hutchins, and it was Schaefer who first called 911. She fought to save Elena's life by applying pressure to her wound, while also giving her oxygen and checking her vitals. She also ordered the medical helicopter that rushed her to the hospital, where Hutchins ultimately succumbed to her gunshot wound, end quote. I thought it was one of the officers who ordered air support. If you consider Alec Baldwin's position that the Rust crew were a very, very well-oiled machine, and the blame fest that's going on with lawsuits going off all over the place like fireworks, it feels like it was a lot more chaotic than a smooth-running operation, doesn't it? Meanwhile, Alec Baldwin has just put up another Instagram post talking about how strange it is to go back to work. He says, I haven't worked since October 21st of last year. Strictly speaking, Alec Baldwin has worked since October. The true crime podcast Art Fraud, which Baldwin narrates, has come out in the interim. I suppose it's possible that he narrated that prior to the incident, but how likely do you think that is? We've also seen him hosting the annual Robert F. Kennedy Ripple of Hope Gala in Midtown Manhattan in New York City, and that was around December the 10th. A week prior to that, Baldwin appeared in a tell-all interview with ABC News. Wasn't that work? I suppose one might argue that he hasn't worked in a movie since Rust. About 1 minute into his almost 5 minute Insta diary, and I'll put a link to that in the description, Baldwin refers to, quote, this horrible thing happening on the set of this film, and we had the accidental death of our cinematographer, Helena Hutchins, end quote. Now, what is quite curious in that particular statement that he makes is he never refers to the name of the film. He also doesn't really elaborate more than that one-liner about exactly what did happen, or indeed his involvement. I mean, if you didn't know the details, you wouldn't know that Baldwin was directly involved in that accidental death, in that he was standing right opposite Helena, holding the smoking gun, as it were. Baldwin has also made the news in Britain recently after he was spotted at Mifta's Indian restaurant in Alton, Hampshire, with Martin Bashir. The title of the Daily Mail article is United in Disgrace. It's probably going to sound a bit controversial to say this, but personally I think it's too soon to refer to Baldwin as quote, the disgraced actor, end quote. He may well be that in many people's minds, but until the investigation concludes and until the lawsuits are dealt with, we can't say for sure exactly what happened or exactly what his involvement was or exactly who is responsible, even though we may feel we have a pretty good idea by now. According to that Daily Mail article, quote, Baldwin and Bashir were seen deeply engrossed in conversation over a curry before leaving together at 7:30 p.m. An onlooker said that he was so gobsmacked by what he saw, he had to take a double take. He described it as being surreal, but that the two men seemed very comfortable in one another's company. And then after the meal, Bashir, who just lives about half an hour away from that restaurant in a $1 million mansion, gave Baldwin a lift to his hotel. And so one's got to wonder, what is that all about? What did they talk about? And I'll put a link to that article. Bashir is not seen in a very good light in Britain for the sort of scaly way that he set up the Princess Diana interview. And there's also some, bad press regarding comments that he made, I think, while he was on MSNBC, and same with Alec Baldwin, I guess. And one wonders what they spoke about. Did they talk about negative publicity? Did they talk about image rebuilding? Did they talk about the fickle masses? Now, my channel is allergic to conspiracies, and I don't really like to speculate on sort of baseless information, but I've got to say my intuition has sort of pricked up, because it seems very odd, this lawsuit. Think about the first 2 or 3 lawsuits that came out. They all came about within a few days, some of them a few weeks of the incident. This one is the outlier. This one has come about, almost 4 months after the incident. And so what is going on there? Is this really the case that the on-set medic has been traumatized, or is someone else, how can I put it, are strings being pulled, and is attack the best form of defense? Because you can imagine if you are Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, for example, and you are suing various people, but then you also being sued, you might be a more amenable to settling, wouldn't you? And isn't settling the name of the game here? Isn't settling the desired outcome for certain players in this game? What do you think? Once again, don't miss my Van Gogh series that continues tomorrow, Wednesday, at around about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, it's a members-only discussion, and so if you'd like to join, that link's also in the description. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.